Okay, for those of you that are watching on Facebook or YouTube, I think I'm good there. If I Unfortunately, I won't be able to monitor the chat box on YouTube or Facebook this evening. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me directly. I actually will put my link to my calendar in there right now so you'll have it. Okay. Okay, we'll get started in just a couple of minutes. While we're waiting, if I could just ask a few questions, could you please type in the chat box what areas you're looking in, whether it's southeastern Michigan, actually Wayne County. I have a grant that I'm going to spend a little bit of time speaking about this evening in Wayne County that's offering up to $15,000 for people. Macomb County, certainly going to touch on programs that will work there. Lately, I've been getting a decent following from up north. Just hung up with somebody outside of Grand Rapids a few moments ago, up in Clare, Michigan, Everett, Michigan, and Traverse City, Grayling area. So I appreciate everyone for passing the news or the message along. That's all I ask for. Please pass my information along to other people. I'm not here to sell you anything, just here to just pass along the knowledge and help you avoid some of the pitfalls or potholes that you may encounter in your journey purchasing. And for the most part, a lot of people that are going to be on tonight are going to be renters. So hopefully get you out of that, I hate to say it, but more of a renting rut that's out there in this country right now. So, good. So we've got people moving. Wayne, Allen Park, great. Dearborn Heights, Westland, Livonia, Oakland County, Jackson, excellent. You know, there's actually a good number one program I'm going to talk about tonight, does real well in Jackson. Nice zero down grant. Wayne, great. So my apologies. I did not put my phone on do not disturb. So that'll remind me. Please try to minimize your distractions. Please have a camera ready or get ready for some screenshots. So I've got a lot more content to go over than normal. So I'm going to try to move fairly quickly tonight. Try to keep it under about an hour. I apologize in advance if I go over. Got it. Looking buying only. Great. Monroe got a couple programs that work well there. So awesome. Yeah. Thank you for sharing those areas. It helps me concentrate on some of the programs that really work well in those areas. Hey, Deontay. Wow. Thanks for joining us. Glad to see you. Actually, what are you doing here? Deontay bought a house about a month ago. So used one of the programs, got him with just a couple $1,000 out of pocket. So appreciate you showing up. And let's see here. All right. So with that being said, I want to ask right out of the gate, if you could please share with me, how much are you paying in rent right now? And how many bedrooms do you have? So if you're paying 1,200 and you have a 2 bedroom, or a 13 or 1,400 and you have a 2 to 3 bedroom house or apartment, whatever, just try to get a feel for it and where people are right now. I'm really seeing rent rates skyrocket, at least in southeastern Michigan. And for what I'm reading, it's it's increasing dramatically across the board. Okay, got it. 17,000. Hey, you have some pretty low rents right now. 900,000. Those are actually pretty reasonable, but I'm finding that the average rent in southeastern Michigan right now is at $1,350 a month. That's for a 2 bedroom apartment. That's what I tend to focus on. And I noticed that there was obviously a big swing up with COVID. And I'm going to touch on that in a few minutes. So good, 3-bedroom, 1,000, 3-bedroom, 1,200, 4-bedroom, 750. Wow. Why would you want to leave that? 3-bedroom, 400, increasing soon. Gosh, that's a gift, Patrick. So 1,400, 1-bedroom apartment. That's that's a lot. But I do hear that it really depends on the area. So got it. 700 for 1-bedroom. That's a common number I'm seeing for 1-bedrooms right now. Although I'm seeing the 1-bedrooms sliding up to about that 800 to 900 area now. So, all right. Well, a couple minutes after 7 o'clock, terrible area. Okay, well, I get it. So a little after 7 o'clock, I'm going to jump into it. For those of you who don't know me, my name is John Collins. I specialize in connecting people with different down payment assistance programs and grants. Tonight, we're going to touch on quite a few of them. I think 11 is what I have scheduled, plus all the local programs we're going to touch on. So just to give you a little bit of my story, I got back into real estate about 7 years ago. Before that, I spent, over 25 years in the mortgage business. That's how I learned to tap into a lot of these programs and learn how to speak the language that a lot of loan officers speak. So also had a principal interest in a title company. And then way back in the 80s is when I first got my real estate license back in 1987. So been doing this quite some time, so there's very few things that haven't hit my radar. But if there's something I don't know, I'll certainly share that with you and let you know, and tap the shoulder of some of the experts in whatever areas I don't know. So, and get those answers for you. So let's start off with who is tonight designed for? Well, this webinar is designed for renters who are just tired of that renting cycle, tired of looking for rentals. I mean, there are quite a few rentals out there, but trying to find quality ones, that's another story. So, and a lot of landlords are selling houses just as quick as leases are coming up to be renewed. So I'm finding more rentals coming up than ever before, just because now's the time for some of these landlords to cash out. It's also for people that are tired of rent increases. I'm hearing some astronomical increases lately. I hung up with somebody this afternoon that I couldn't believe. They just went through. She started out at, and this is actually in a rural area, started out at $1,200 2 years ago, and it was from a friend of a friend type of thing, somebody through church actually, and she knew she was getting a deal. But a year later, rent went up to $1,400. And now the reason they gave it to her so inexpensively in the beginning was they were uncomfortable being landlords. Well, now it's a gravy train. Now they're jacking that rent up to her for $1,900 a month. And there's really nothing she can do. So she does have some time, but time does go by very quickly. So, and trying to replace what she had is going to be very, very challenging. She realizes she can't do that, but she certainly can't go from $1,200 to $1,900 in 2 years. That's just cost prohibitive for her budget. So anyway, so anybody that's tired of those rent increases, or landlords not making repairs, that's another big thing I hear of. There's a lot of landlords just collecting money, and nothing against landlords. There are some good ones out there. I work with a couple of landlords that do an exceptional job, but trying to get into one of their houses is tough. They do keep up on the repairs. Also, the other thing I hear from people is they're tired of paying off their landlord's mortgage. So that's an interesting way of looking at it, but I certainly appreciate that. And right now, the only rentals are available are, well, if you don't jump through a ton of hoops, you're dealing with people that are somewhat shady, okay? And some people that are offering rent-to-owns. Please, I tell people rent-to-owns more often than not are too good to be true, okay? In my opinion, there are a couple of decent rent-to-owns, but for the most part, it's a way for them to work around the maximum security deposit. In Michigan, the maximum security deposit for a rental is 1.5 times your rent. So if you do a rent to own, they're going to promise you ownership down the road. They can collect a $5,000 or $10,000. I had someone a few months ago buying up in Lapeer, $10,000 they put down on a rent to own. And 2 years later, when they went to go buy it, the landlord was like, okay, great. The house next door just sold for 200,000. Well, when I rented it, it was 150. Now you're telling me 200, and I've done all this work. The landlord's sorry, it's 200,000. So he actually walked away from his $10,000. The house needed some work in the basement. There was some leaks there, but he did walk away from it. So please be careful on those rent to owns. Unless you lock down the sale price in advance, don't do it. I don't care how much they're putting down or what the promises are. Unless that title transfers or unless you get a lien on the house, it's not worth it. Land contracts. A lot of people think that land contracts are a good way to get around if you don't have the best of credit. Not so much anymore. The good land contracts are asking for what's your exit strategy in 2 to 3 years? Is your income going to be turned around? Is your credit going to be turned around? It's not the old just put 20% down and be done. So I tell people, if you're looking for a land contract, chances are you've got 10% to put down. If you've got 10% to put down, we have programs that will do credit scores down to 500 right now at decent rates. Okay. So the algorithms are getting very forgiving on FHA. So that's who we're this evening's targeted for. Here, some of the promises I'm going to tell you. Tonight, there will be no sales pitch. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to give you confidence that you can actually purchase a house if you check some of the boxes that we're going to talk about this evening. So no sales pitch. We're going to go over more than 10 programs and what the criteria is to get approved for those programs and how to structure those deals. So we'll give you a couple of scenarios there on how we structure these transactions so you can get into them with just $2,000-$3,000 out of pocket. And for those of you that might have some credit struggles, hang on till the end. I will give you a link to my credit webinar. I do those on Thursdays, and that webinar is called How to Get Your Credit Score Up 60 Points in 60 Days. So I'm going to give you some of the do's and don'ts to tackle some derogatory things on your credit and give you some tools to get a quick spike in your score. I find that, hey, if your score's, say, 540, 550, no reason for us not to be talking. We can typically get your score up 60 points to get you into a house in about 60 to 90 days. If your credit score is 580 or higher, we should be talking and getting you rolling right now. Okay, now, like I said, my goal this evening is just to give you the confidence that there are programs out there that can take care of the financial burden, okay? I know it flies in the face of conventional wisdom in the mortgage world, but the money out of pocket, $2,000 to $3,000 is all you need. And if that's tough, I routinely get deals done with less than $2,000. We just have to sharpen the pencil a little bit. That's all. Okay, communication is key. So with that being said, let's press on. This is the agenda. This is what we're going to go over this evening. I'm going to spend a few minutes going over market conditions. What's the market like for buying a house, selling a house? What's the rental market like? I'm going to spend a fair amount of time going over some success stories. What I want to do is show you the types of houses that I'm able to help get people into. These aren't houses that need a ton of work. These are good habitable homes in good condition, okay? I'm also going to go over some of the frequently asked questions, basically the top 10 questions to try to answer a lot of the stuff that you may have questions you have up front. Then I'm going to touch on, I think it's 11 programs tonight to go over the top 11 down payment assistance programs and grants. These programs have a substantial amount of funding and will be around for the foreseeable future. I'm also going to show you how we structured a few of those transactions and how we got people in with just a couple $1,000s out of pocket. And then I'm going to go over some bonuses tonight. For those of you that hang on to the end, I'm going to go over some municipal programs. There's actually a municipal program for Wayne County that's giving it's not quite 15, it's $14,999. That's a lot of money in my book. And that is money that as long as you live in the house for a few years, you get to keep all of it. no repayment associated with it. I'm also going to give you a link to my credit webinar tomorrow night and some of the keys that I feel are needed for success and as far as getting you across the finish line for these types of programs. The only ask I have from you this evening is please do me a favor and pay it forward. If you know of anybody that's thinking of making a move or renting, all I ask is just share my information with a couple of people. Right now, we're approaching 50 people on this call. That's great. And that is, I didn't even run any ads this week. We had 100 people sign up. So thank you all very much for showing up. So I'd like to be respectful of your time and get moving right into it. But please remember my ask. Refer me a couple of people if you could, please. All right. Markets. What is the rental market like right now? Most of you know it is just brutal out there. We've watched rents skyrocket ever since COVID. Once COVID hit, it was like a license for some of these landlords to just jack the rents up. So unfortunately, we've seen rents go up by about $200 a month for an average two-bedroom apartment. I tend to focus on a two-bedroom apartment because that's what's plentiful in my marketplace. I'm in southeastern Michigan. So right now, the average two-bedroom apartment just surpassed the 1,350 mark. And that's up from a 1,050 back in 2019, I think is what it was. Yes, if you look at the gray line on this slide, you'll see how quickly things have come up. Now, a lot of the professionals or forecasters were saying that we've seen the big spike from COVID for rents and that things are leveling out and that we can probably predict a 5.5% increase per year for the next 5 years. So that same two-bedroom apartment at $1,350 could be up to $1,700. I'm telling you, I don't believe it. I think it's going to be a lot higher than that. The same time that I read those reports, they were saying that there was a whole slew of new construction coming down the pike for rent. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't know too many apartment complexes going up right now. I know of one, I think, in Farmington Hills, and something tells me it's probably going to be more of a high rent complex than what a lot of the people that I work with are accustomed to. So with that being the case, I think with the way lumber spiked in COVID, I think a lot of these projects are getting shelved. So don't be surprised if we see these prices go even higher than what they're forecasting. Now, what do I see in the home ownership side? Well, unfortunately, purchasing a home can be challenging right now too. But what I can tell you is that for me, it gets your payment locked in. Okay. So if we're going to get you into a home and that payment's going to be, let's say $1,300 a month, $1,300 a month right now is buying a $150,000 house. Now that's buying a solid brick ranch, bungalow, colonial in some cases. I'll go through a few scenarios in just a moment. So anyways, like I said, we're seeing home affordability is actually becoming a lot more challenging. So I know it's not easy, but I'm telling you right now, it's better to do it because we don't know what's going to happen 2 to 3 years down the road. Right now, the way that it is, there is such a demand for rents that it is putting a lot of pressure on this first-time home buyer market. But in my opinion, better to get in now, get that payment locked in for the foreseeable future. And hey, if rates dip, you can always refinance. So now we are seeing usually what happens when the interest rates go up and the amount of units being sold go down, we start to see inventory levels increase. We're not seeing that right now. So inventory levels are still challenging, no question. Sometimes instead of making one offer on a house, we might have to make offers on 3, 4, 5. Heck, last year I had to make 10 offers. Actually, I think one person went up to 13 offers before they got an offer accepted. The one thing I can tell you, it's uncanny. It always works out for the best. So without fail, every single person would admit that, hey, this was actually the best house. So it was worth making those 10 offers. So I always tell people patience and persistence, and I'll be in it for the long haul with you. So we touched on rental rates, so I won't echo that again. Here's a survey that really touched on what was holding people back from buying. And of course, I mean, common sense, money. Okay. So the 38% of the respondents in this survey said that they were held back because they just didn't have enough money. I know this, again, flies in the face of wisdom in our industry, but I take the money as my part. I'm going to connect you with down payment assistance programs or grants or seller concessions. Heck, we even have ways where we can ask the lenders sometimes to step up and help you out with some of those costs with what's called premium pricing. That's for a more advanced conversation or class. I'm not going to touch that this evening, but there are a lot of ways to skin the cat to get the deal across the finish line. I'm going to give you a few examples when we structure these transactions in just a moment. Okay, next thing I want to touch on are some of the success stories. I really like going over these in detail because it starts to get people excited and lets you know that these are real people that bought real houses. And so, for example, and they're solid, good. I've been around, I'm 59 years old right now. So I grew up in the city. I am a big fan of brick houses. I'm a big fan of 1950s brick houses because they're just solid construction. In my opinion, you pick up a 50s house and the roof is in good shape and the basement's dry, there's not a lot that goes south of them that's going to derail your budget more than a furnace or something like that. So anyways, this is the first sample or person that I want to touch on. This was a house in East Point. Sold it to Rohan and Nicole. Wonderful couple. They actually used two programs. One was a Flagstar gift program that actually gave them the down payment. So Flagstar gave them 3% to put down on this house. And then we followed it up with a Power Up program. So that covered their closing costs. So they purchased the home with a total of $10,540 is what Flagstar gave them to buy this house. And when I say gave, I mean the day after closing, they could have sold it and pocketed that money. So it was a total grant. Now, the purchase price was $168 at the time that we signed the offer. We needed to collect a deposit of $2,000, and they also needed $1,342 at closing. So for a total of $3,342, they were able to get into this brick ranch in East Point, and it actually had a one-car garage. Don't see that very often on some of these brick ranches, but it's a unique pocket in East Point. Oh, by the way, I think their payment on this came in at about $1,200, maybe $1,300 tops. So here's another one. Anaheim purchased this one in Detroit. This house was, I can't remember the street name. It was over by Detroit Diesel, though, south of 96, east of Telegraph. Solid brick area, nice pocket of the city. The purchase price on this one was only $115,000. I think we did very well on that side. We only needed a $1,000 deposit at the time we made the offer, and at the time of closing, they only needed $198. So for $1,200, they were able to get into this house using a $10,000 down payment assistance program through the Michigan State Housing Development Authority. So great program. Again, another, you can see 1950s house, brick ranch, solid basement, very, very nice, predictable house. Next one, this one was in Detroit as well. Martisha purchased this one on Cruz Street. I'll never forget this house because the person the previous owner, this wasn't a flip, the previous owner did a great job with renovations. You can see it has a brand new roof, front porch is tight. This actually had a master bedroom addition put on the back with a full master bath. So we did very well on this one. Solid house. It was actually 4 bedrooms with that master on the back. This one, she tapped into that 3% gift program. So they gave her the down payment and they gave her $5,000 to cover her closing costs. So they gave her a total of $8,900 at the time we made the offer. which was $130,000. We needed $1,000 deposit, and at the time of closing, she only needed $1,279 for it. So for $2,200, she was in a beautiful house on Cruz Street. It was like Cruz and McNichols. Next one. Oh, whoops. Sorry about that. Next one. Tashiana purchased this one on Rosemont. This was a beautiful house. Kitchen was all redone inside. I will forever be appreciative of Tashiana. She taught me patience always prevails. Unique story, but this is kind of how this one played out. We made an offer on this house of $140,000. Okay. In my opinion, it was worth it. And in her opinion, it was worth it too, because her parents lived around the block. So she's a single mom. It was right where her support system was. And it was a clean, colonial, really good shape. Like I said, updated kitchen inside, granite countertops. It was just really done well. Well, unfortunately, the appraisal didn't come in at 140. It actually came in at 123, $17,000 lower. Well, the seller squawked at that. We couldn't make up the difference. So a week went by, 2 weeks went by. The seller comes back to us. Hey, how about if we try and negotiate that a little bit? Well, we were able to tap into the city of Detroit at that time, had a $25,000 down payment assistance program. Now, I want to take a little bit of a time out right now. There are rumors that this $25,000 is coming back. So please, I'm going to ask you right now, if you live in the city, if you've lived in the city for the last 12 months, please contact me. I'm going to put my information right in the chat box right now. Whoops, you know what? I responded to somebody's text there. And everyone in meeting, let me try this again. There we go. There's a link to my calendar. Please click that link and book a call. What I want to do at the very least is get your information. So I can, because we actually have to put in your name, your address, your current address, and your email address and your phone number to register on the list for $25,000. So you have to have lived, you have to prove that you're currently living in the city. Now, I'm just getting a text from someone saying, hey, I just moved to the city. Okay, if you move from outside the state to the city of Detroit, we might be able to get that to work. But if you just move from Macomb County to Detroit, it's probably not going to fly. There are a lot of people saying or moving to the city or having their mail sent to mom and dad's house just to try and qualify for that, and they will sniff it out. Okay, so $25,000 is a lot of money, but they've got a waiting list, and hopefully that waiting list, the money is going to be coming back into play very soon. So please reach out to me to get you registered for that. So Tashiana was able to take advantage of that $25,000. Now, how we registered or how we did this was we came to an agreement of $123,000. The down payment assistance program paid $20,000 down for her. So we only needed $5,000 to cover the closing costs. At the time of closing, now, keep in mind, she's a person that, there's never extra money. I'm totally aware of that. So at the time that we made her offer, we only collected a $500 deposit. And then at closing, she just needed $1,041. So she only needed $1,541 to buy this house from start to finish. $20,000 went to the down payment. $5,000 we used for her closing costs. Her payment came in under $1,000 a month. That was just absolutely a godsend. So solid house. So I hope that program is back soon so I can service some of you with that program. But the key is you have to live in the city in order to get it. Next one I want to touch on was one in Mount Morris. Mount Morris is up outside of Flint, just to kind of give you some bearings. our footprint is southeastern Michigan, so we travel all over to get these deals done for you. So this was with Charles. He tapped into a 3% gift program for $4,650. The purchase price on this sprawling brick ranch, you can see big brick ranch, again, 1950s construction, 2-car attached garage, purchase price $155,000. At the time we made the offer, we did collect a $1,500 earnest money deposit. At the time of closing, we only needed $740. Now, on this particular one, we were able to negotiate and get $4,500 in closing costs paid by the seller. So that plus the $4,600, we had over $9,000 that we were able to work with. So those are 5 transactions that we recently closed. Now what I want to do is I'm going to go over 3 transactions that we closed 4 or 5 years ago. Okay, here's one in Livonia. Jack purchased this back, actually, gosh, it's longer than that, 6 years ago, I guess. So closing in on 6 years. He purchased this brick ranch in Livonia for $156,000, used a $7,500 down payment assistance. Seller gave us $2,000 in concessions, and his payments are only $1,100 a month. So back then, hey, $1,100 was probably what a 2-bedroom apartment was going for. Okay, not like today at $1,350, but keep in mind, 5 years, 6 years go by. And the reason I put this up is Jack just called me to say, hey, what's my home worth? My neighbor's got his for sale for $275,000. I think his neighbor's a little high, that's for sure. But I can tell you all day we could sell it for $225. And so he paid $156. So basically, his mortgage is probably down to $140. He's got $85,000 in equity right now. Okay, so there's the investment side to jumping in and doing this as well too. So the next one is Terry. Terry purchased, this is one in Westland 5 years ago, bought it for $101,000. We just got under contract for $155,000. He's actually selling it. He used a down payment assistance program of $7,500. His payments were only $950 a month on this one. It was a cute house in Westland. Nice big ranch. And then the next one, this is one they actually sold several months ago. But I just wanted to kind of give you a feel for one in East Point. Patricia sold this one. She actually got moved to Georgia. A family member was ill. She had to move down there. She purchased it 4 years ago for $75,000. We sold it for $110,000. She bought it with a down payment assistance program. So she only needed $1,000, I think, maybe $1,500 tops out of pocket. Her payments were only $750 a month. We just sold it for $115,000. So that's $40,000. And her payment was $750. That was this is actually a 3-bedroom bungalow. So it was really well done inside. So anyways, that gives you a feel for, what it's like after buying these and holding on to them for a few years. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to tap into or jump on some of the questions that people usually have. And I'm going to rattle through these real quick because I know everybody wants to know exactly what the programs are. And I don't want to spend too much time on this. But just the same, a lot of people have the question, what is the timeline? Well, it depends on the program. And the timelines really trigger once you get an offer accepted. So once we get an offer accepted, we have some programs that we can get done in 3 weeks. Some are 4 to 6 weeks. There's one, unfortunately, it will take you a couple of months. I'm going to give you a feel for what it takes. But typically, if you need to have something done in 30 days, just let me know. We'll get it off. Once we get an offer accepted, we'll just make sure you're on a program that gets done quickly. Okay. What I do stress to people is please don't give notice to your landlord. Without fail, I get 1 or 2 people a month. They give their notice to their landlord prematurely. And unfortunately, they'll pick, as soon as they pick up a new tenant, people are scrambling to find rentals right now. So don't lose what you have until we find something. Eligible properties. The homes have to be in good habitable condition for all of the programs that we work with. Okay. So in other words, it has to have a functioning kitchen, functioning bathroom. Every now and then we run into a house where the furnace might have been taken. I'm not worried about that. We can always put a furnace in, but it's got to be in good habitable condition. Okay. It's got to have a roof that's got a year or two of life left in it, things like that. So income restrictions. A lot of these programs do have income restrictions, so keep that in mind. So when you schedule a call with me, I'm going to ask, hey, what's your income? What's your credit? So try to go out to Credit Karma, take a peek at your credit scores. So that way we can have that high level conversation. I can tell you what program's the best fit and connect you with that lender. Okay. But keep in mind, there are some income restrictions. They're usually very lenient. They're very liberal. A lot of the programs, as long as your income's below 90,000, you're good. There are a couple of programs where your income needs to be below 60,000 in certain areas, but I'll let you know those just so you don't get caught off guard. Credit and debt requirements. Yes, there are some credit restrictions. I always tell people if your credit scores are above a 580, no question we can get you done. If it's below a 580, hey, we just have to put a little work into it. They also don't want to see more than 50% of your income going to your house payment and your overall debts. Okay. So how does that work out? Let's just say you have income of, let's say $60,000 a year. That's $5,000 a month. In the mortgage world, they break everything down on a monthly basis. So if I take 50% of 5,000, that's $2,500 a month. Let's just say your car payment's $500. That takes us down to $2,000. Maybe credit cards are a couple hundred, takes you down to $1,800. Maybe another thing takes you down another $100. That's $1,700. $1,700 a month to go to a house payment. I mean, come on, that's a couple $100,000 house minimum right now. So keep that in mind. They're very lenient debt to income ratios, but they do have them. Sometimes people do get tripped up with student loans and things like that. Just let me know if you got them, and I'll give you the programs and the workarounds for it. Do you have to be a first-time home buyer? The answer is no. A lot of times, programs do say first-time home buyers, but first-time home buyers are usually defined as someone that just hasn't owned a home in the past 3 years. Now, I had a young lady a couple of months ago. She inherited a home from mom and dad when they passed away, and her uncle's been living there for 5 years. So unfortunately, she owned a house. There are programs where all we had to do was deed her off of it. So she's not going to push her uncle to the streets. She just deeded the house to her uncle, and we were able to qualify for the #1 program that I'm going to go over this evening, which is through Flagstar Bank. So you don't have to be a first-time home buyer. Or if you were one of the people that were unfortunately tripped up back in the meltdown 2008 to 14 and lost a home, don't worry about it. You can qualify as a first-time home buyer now. How to locate a lender. I'm going to give you the names of all the lenders this evening. I would encourage you, please don't call them directly. Okay, they have a lot of loan officers. I don't know all of them. If you have any hiccups, I always like to help out. So reach out to me. Let me put myself in your shoes, tell you what I would do to get the most amount of money, and then make that introduction for you. That way, if you do have any hiccups that you can, and you need to call me for some help, I can jump in and have a very candid conversation. And if I need to call somebody out to get on the job, I'll do that. Okay. Don't have to. The lenders that I work with usually do a fantastic job, and they have a sense of urgency. They're used to working these programs, and they're used to working them very efficiently. So let me make that introduction for you. Now, down payment assistance and grants. You've heard me say that. There's a distinct difference. Down payment assistance, more often than not, possibly could be repaid or may have a repayment component with it. Grants are typically free money. So ideally, what we want to do, we want to try to tap into those grants first. Okay. If you don't fit into those, then hey, we'll go to the down payment assistance program. Okay. So just keep that in mind. That these questions and answers are why we ask a lot of questions up front. We just don't want to waste your time. And more importantly, if we need help in certain areas, we want to get you that help. Okay. Whether it's 2 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, or 2 days, doesn't matter. We're in it for the long haul. I've got people I've been working with for 2 years where we've been working on their credit, And unfortunately, life gets in the way of all of our plans and something trips it up and we have to start over. It happens. So, it's just have to dust ourselves off and get up and do it again. That's all. So now, with that being said, I'm going to just go through some of the questions here real quick. Okay, got it. What about paying property taxes on foreclosure homes? I don't know what you mean by that. If you could elaborate on it a little bit. You talk about buying a house for back taxes. That might be what you're talking about, going to the tax auction. Got it. Just moved to the city. Wonderful. Oh, good. Hey, if your daughter stays with you and you're in the city, great. Good. Thanks for the comment, Juan. I appreciate it. And yes, there are down payment assistance programs for healthcare professionals. There are. So please reach out to me. There are specific for nurses, doctors. Sometimes those programs work out quite well. The thing is with those programs, though, your credit has to be top notch. And the amount of money that they give you is similar to what we can get on some of these down payment assistance programs. The only difference is the rate might be slightly better on some of those medical programs. So once I know your story, I can point you in the right direction there. Okay, so how do I purchase a home with Section 8? That is it can be done. The first thing you want to do is you want to reach out to your housing commission and make sure that you can do it with them, because not all housing commissions will allow you to do that. I would encourage you to schedule a call with me. That's threading a needle, but it can be done. Okay, so please schedule a call. All right, that being said, I'm going to jump right into my top 11 is what we're going to go over today. So coming in at number 11 on my list is through MSHDA. The Michigan State Housing Development Authority is currently giving $10,000 to home buyers. I shouldn't say giving, they give you free use of $10,000. You never make a payment on it, you never charge any interest, but when you sell the house, the state's going to want their money back. Okay, great way to buy a house. It does require credit scores of 640 or higher. The purchase price is a maximum of $224,500. Now, we did get some chatter that the state is talking about increasing that up in excess of $300,000. So stay tuned. If any of you are looking higher than that, we may have some options for this program as well. This one's very lenient on income. Your income just needs to be below $90,000 for 1 to 2 people in the household. If you have more people in the household, they'll give you more income limits. Okay. You need to have at least 1% of the purchase price into the transaction. So if you're buying a $150,000 house, you got to have $1,500 into it. That's your skin in the game, as they say. It does require a home buyer education class too. So great program. This one has been around since I first got in the business in 1987. Back then, they were only given $2,500. Now they're given $10,000. So that's number 11, the MSHDA program. Number 10, rural development. So rural development loan is through the United States Department of Agriculture, will allow you to purchase with no money down. It has to be in a designated rural area, which is 90% of Michigan, just outside the Detroit area. Wayne County, it works. It has to be more south of Metro Airport, Oakland County, west of Milford, west of South Lyon, and Macomb County, well, north of M59, and you can possibly fit in on this program. It's nice because there's no money down. There's no first-time home buyer restrictions. Has a minimum credit score now of 580, so very flexible on credit. Income restrictions, very generous on income. Your income can go up to 130. I think it actually went up to 140,000 recently. Loan limits are up to 400,000. I know that. And their equivalent of mortgage insurance is actually quite low. This is a great program if you're moving to a remote or rural area. So number 10, rural development through USDA. Number 9 on my list, VA loans. If there's any veterans out there, please let me know. Thank you very much for your service. If it wasn't for the fact that you need to be a veteran and have an honorable discharge, this would be my #1 program. You can buy with no money down, no mortgage insurance. Heck, technically, VA doesn't even require a credit score. I've gotten credit scores on VAs down to 500. So, and they will do loans up to $500,000. So one of the only ways that you can possibly buy with absolutely zero money out of pocket. So any veterans out there, thank you for your service. #8 on my list. This is from Gold Star Mortgage, their down payment assistance program. Now, I like this one a lot. Very lenient on credit, 620 credit score. They will give you an FHA second mortgage for 3.5%. That is forgivable over time. It is for first-time home buyers. There's no income restrictions, and it's available throughout the state of Michigan. So that's through Gold Star. The #7 on my list, Guaranteed Rate, has a special purpose credit program with Fannie Mae Home Ready. Now, this one's a little bit more tricky, but it offers a lot of money. $5,000 from Fannie Mae, up to 1% of the mortgage amount, up to $3,000 in addition to it, so possibly up to $8,000. They will pay for your appraisal. They'll give you money for a home warranty, and your credit scores just need to be above a 620 for one of the buyers. And it needs to have a desktop approval. Only one of the people need to be occupying the house, which means that you can use co-signers on this one. And at least one of the people in the transaction has to be a first-time home buyer. They do have an education course. The downside with this one is you have to have 3% into the transaction. So if you are buying a $150,000 house, that's $4,500. Okay. But they'll give you possibly up to $9,500 on this program. That's #7 through Guaranteed Rate. #6 on my list, Aurora. This is a newer program that was put on my radar. I used to recommend Chenoa. I would swear this program is almost identical to Chenoa, other than it is more flexible on credit. It will do credit scores down to 580, no income limits, no debt to income ratios, no area restrictions. You don't have to be a first-time home buyer, and they'll do 1 to 2 unit properties on it. They will give you a down payment assistance program for 3.5% or 5% that's either repayable or forgivable. Gift funds are allowed for the whole thing. So somebody could give you, you don't have to have a dime into it. If you've got a grandpa or somebody that wants to give you an inheritance early, boom, not 1 penny of yours has to be into it. And non-occupant co-signers are allowed. Okay, that was #6. #5 and 4. You know what? Before I do that, I'm going to get into some samples. Let's show you how we structure some of these transactions. So this particular house sold for $200,000. The taxes were $2,100. The closing costs are about $2,000. The homeowner's insurance was $1,200, and the title insurance would be about $1,200. So the total closing cost to buy this house would be $6,500. Okay, that's probably what average closing costs are running nowadays. Now, if we use the down payment assistance program, the first one, remember the $10,000 through MSHDA? Well, down payment would be $6,000. Your closing cost would be $6,500, which means a total would be $12,500. We subtract the $10,000 from the state, you're only going to need $2,500 to buy this house. Now, I have a grant that we're going to touch on shortly, where it's going to give you up to $15,000. That could be used here. You could probably get in with, I think that one you don't have to have, maybe $1,000 on that one. I'm not positive on it, but plan on a couple thousand. But the rest of it can be used as a down payment on it. If we were using the same scenario for a zero down program like USDA or a zero down grant, no down payment, $6,500 in closing costs. So we got to cover that $65,000. We could ask the seller to pay some of your closing costs. Sometimes we can get a grant to cover your closing costs and just subtract it right off the top. There are other ways, if we get down the wire and we're short a little bit, there are other ways that we can kind of finagle and get things across the finish line. That's on a case-by-case basis. So, but just the same, as long as we communicate, there's very seldom does money what trips people up when I work with them. So that's how we run some of those scenarios. Number 5 and 4 on my top 10 or 11, Bank of America. Okay, Bank of America offers a lot of money, but they are painfully slow. All the other programs I told you about, you could probably get done 30, maybe 45 days top. Bank of America is going to be 60 days all day. And I will tell you, at the end of the process, you're not going to like anybody, probably including me. But I'm going to be upfront about it. They are painfully slow, but they give a lot of money. They will give you up to $17,500. They will give you a grant to cover your down payment up to $10,000, and they piggyback that with $7,500 to cover your closing costs. They do have some income restrictions, so it allows you to buy with no money down. There's no mortgage insurance. Your minimum credit score is 640 on that, so that's a little bit higher. Debt to income ratios are a little bit lower, 41%, and you do have to pay your own prepaids, which means you got to pay your own homeowners insurance and escrows and things like that. But $17,500. Don't know about you, but I go through a lot of pain for that. But still, it is a very painful process with them. So, but I still feel like I have to tell people about it. The next one I want to talk about is Flagstar. You saw this, we use this in a few of the examples. They have a Power Up program and a gift program. So the gift program will give you that 3% to use for the down payment, okay, up to $7,500. Does require your credit score to be a little bit higher, 680 or higher. I think we've actually got some through down to 670, so I might want to change that a little bit. There are some income restrictions and area restrictions, so you have to be purchasing in a moderate income area. Somebody's asking about my last slide, Bank of America. Do you need to be a customer with Bank of America? No, you don't need to be a customer at any of these banks, okay? In fact, that's one of the ways that I use to get people across the finish line towards the end. For example, this slide, Flagstar Bank. If it comes down to the very end and you're short $500, they're going to tell you, go open a checking account. We'll give you a $500 credit at closing. So go open a savings account. We'll give you $250. So there's a lot of different levers to pull and buttons to press when it comes to getting these things done. So anyways, the grant program on this will cover $5,000. You have to be moving from a moderate to low income area in order to qualify for this one. It's not where you're moving to, it's where you're moving from. You have to be a first-time home buyer. It's got to be your primary residence, and they'll pay for your appraisal too. Okay, and it's a conventional product, which conventional just means that it's going to be a lot smoother process. Okay. Number 1 on my list is actually, again, through Flagstar Bank. They offer a program that's called Destination Home. Now, this is available in all of the counties that I have listed here. It allows you to purchase with no money down. It's a conventional loan with no mortgage insurance, which is almost unheard of. Your minimum credit score is 600. So if you're 600 or above, you're in. It allows the seller to pay up to 4% of the closing costs. They do have some debt to income restrictions at 45%, and standard closing costs do apply. It is really good for low income people or wannabe investors because this will allow you to buy a multi-unit property. So by far and away, one of my favorite programs because they have a team dedicated to getting these things done. This is the program. If you get all the documents in right away, you can get it done in about 3 weeks. I have a handful of people that have been done in 3 weeks over this past 6 months. But like anything, it's how much information you get in and how quickly. So those are my top 10. So next, I want to go over some of the bonus areas. These are municipal programs. The reason I don't talk about municipal programs a lot is they run out of money, okay? So, for example, right now, there's an organization called National Faith. Now, National Faith ran the Detroit program that was giving out 25,000. Now, rumor has it they're no longer going to be governing that program. I think the city might be taking it over or giving it to another company. But National Faith is a manager of federal funds for a lot of municipalities. So if you are looking in Wayne County right now, specifically, they are offering $14,999 in all of these cities. I'm not going to rattle them off. There's probably 30 of them there, but anything from Allen Park to Livonia to Wyandotte. So all of those cities. So great way to buy a house. So that 15,000 can 100% cover your down payment, and we can use the balance to cover your closing costs. So for example, if you have weak credit below 580, a lot of times if you put 10% down, these algorithms or automated systems that approve loans can be a little bit more forgiving. This program, if you put more than 5% down on FHA, you might be able to get an approval. So if you are purchasing or thinking of purchasing in one of those communities, even if your credit score is down to 550, give me a call. It might be worth forwarding you to the lender to see what we can do to get you across the finish line. Now, the downside with these programs are they do run out of money. Okay, just to give you an example, I'm going right to the National Faith website right here. And so right now in Wayne County, they've got 1.8 million left. City of Westland has 73,000 left. Livonia, 169,000. And you can see Taylor's out of money, Lincoln Park, and Detroit. Okay, that's not to say they won't get funding again soon, but we just have to keep checking back. Okay, so those are the municipal programs. Now, my credit webinar, let me put that link in here. Any of you that need help with credit tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, here is the link. Where is that? Okay, credit.nodownpaymentrequired.org/home. Click on this link and please register for my credit repair webinar tomorrow night. How to get your score up 60 points in 60 days. All right. Next thing, keys to success. I said this earlier, patience, persistent, and positivity. That's what I'm all about. Stay patient, stay positive. We will find that right house. May take one offer, may take 10 offers, may take somewhere in the middle, but I will promise you we're going to find something that's quality. Okay, similar to the success stories that I showed you earlier. As you can tell, there's one thing in common with a lot of those houses. I'm a big fan of brick. That's just the way I was raised. I grew up in the city at Finkel and Lamphere, or Finkel and Lasser in Brightmoor. I can tell you now, when I go back, all the frame houses, they're not doing so well. The brick houses, they're standing tall. So I'm a big fan of brick anywhere in the Detroit area. Okay. So, the other thing I always like to focus on are volume. It's not uncommon when I send you to a lender. The reason I want to send you to a specific lender is they're going to have probably not one, they're going to have 2 or 3 programs that you can fit into. And I do that purposely because maybe there's a hiccup that surfaces with one program and we've got to pivot over to another program. Okay. The last thing I want to do is get someone excited about purchasing a house and not being able to get you across the finish line, or even worse, get your family excited about it. Okay. It's not fair. Okay. Things happen, but just the same, I want to make sure that we're setting everybody up for success. Okay. So please schedule that call with me. Let me put that link in here again. There you go. This is a link to my calendar. Schedule a call. On that call, we're going to talk about what's your income level, what areas you're looking in, what are you paying for rent, because those are factors that take into account for the purchase, and where's your credit, and what kind of bills do you have, and I'll run through all of those scenarios and I'll tell you what programs I would do that are going to offer the most amount of money. Okay. And then I'm going to tell you what I do from an ease standpoint and what's going to be the chances of getting things done too. And who knows, maybe it's worth starting today, or maybe it's worth working on a couple of things for tomorrow. Either way, that's fine. I'm in this for the long haul. All right. So with that being said, let's open some things up for questions. Got it. So we covered all that. So, all right, let's see what kind of questions we have here. Okay, I did touch on this one, Section 8. So please check with your housing commission, schedule a call, get back to me. If your housing commission does not offer it, there are ways to possibly transfer your voucher to another housing commission that does. It's a very cumbersome process, but can be done. Can you get a copy of this recording? Actually, yes, it is being recorded right now, and there's going to be a replay that's going to be emailed out to everybody. Actually, if you're in attendance, you might not get the replay. Send me a quick text, and I will send it out to you. Okay, we've got a lot of people on this call, so I'm hesitant to do it, but I'm going to give you my cell phone number, 248-252-7283. This is the best way to get a hold of me. You're going to see a lot of numbers. You'll see a phone number for where I text from my website. You're going to see a phone number that works for my signs on front of houses and stuff like that. They're all good numbers, but you may have to leave a message. This phone, I'm a hawk. I'm all over it. My wife thinks it's attached to my ear, but that's just the way it is. So if you want to buy in another state, okay, iPhone, yes. These programs, many of them do work in other states. They're called sometimes a little bit different products. Please schedule a call, reach out to me. I can put you in touch with one of the lenders that work across the country to make sure you're there. There are actually some states that have more favorable programs. So it's crazy. You go to New York or California, some of these programs go up to $40,000. It's insane how much money they give. But what you pay for a house is crazy too, in my mind. Good. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate the love. So any other questions out there? Please type them right in the chat box. Happy to go over any questions you might have. Don't be shy. Okay. Just going through the questions right now. Sorry, I'm flying solo tonight. So, I didn't get a clarification on property taxes on foreclosed homes. So usually if a home, foreclosure homes are hard to come by right now. There's so much, there was such a big push with COVID to help people and keep them from falling into foreclosure. There's just not a plentiful amount out there. And I will tell you, there's a lot of investor money sitting on the sidelines, a lot of cash. So when those good deals come out, those guys are pouncing. Got it. Yes. One person's asking if we have a transcript of the presentation. Like I said earlier, I'll get a replay out to you. Please just go ahead and text me and I'll get that replay out to you so you can send that to your friends, or just have your friends reach out to me and I'll get the replay directly out to them, because sometimes it can be a little quirky. Okay. Let's go. Got a few new messages coming in here. Okay, you want grants for Monroe. Okay, reach out to me. The grants, I have to pull those up individually for some counties. Monroe, I don't know a lot of those off my top of head. I can tell you there are a lot of programs. USDA works in some of the remote areas. I have to see if National Faith has anything down there. Sometimes give me a call. We could possibly do a Zoom call and I'll pop you right on the websites that I look at or rely on to get that information. Okay. How long would it take a single mom with a 640 credit score who has at least 3,000 saved to close on a home? I have a job and own a small business. Okay. If speed is your thing, I would say we want to run to the Flagstar Destination Home program or the second program. Okay. Their Destination Home only requires a 600 credit score. We could also look through MSHDA. Their turn times have become a lot quicker. MSHDA could be done in 30 days, but you just got to be on your game getting your documents in. So we've got a couple of different options there. Please schedule a call with me, and happy to help you connect the dots on that. Do you have to go through a realtor to purchase with Section 8? Well, it depends if the house is represented by a realtor. So I will tell you, if I don't know too many agents that have any experience doing Section 8. I'm probably the only crazy guy out there that would even work with you on something like that. That is one of the toughest, not one, that is the toughest way to buy a house, hands down. Okay. So, because there's a lot of education and getting the housing commissions to be in alignment. So that's a tough one. So, but I would encourage you to get some representation, because they're going to throw a lot of things at you that you're going to need some coaching and help on. Is it realistic for me to think I can own a home? I'm in a low income bracket. Boy, that's a great question. I get a lot of people that approach me with fixed income, Social Security, things like that. So the most successful way that I have discovered is possibly, and I don't want to push anybody into being a landlord, but there are programs where typically what happens is you might have $1,000 of fixed income coming in. That's not going to qualify for much. So what I've done in the past is look for a duplex. Okay. If you rent out half the duplex, we can take that rental income and add that to your income. And now we can get approved for twice the amount. But it entails you being a landlord. Now, whether or not you're up for that task, that's obviously your decision to make. I will tell you, I am not a good landlord because I just believe everybody's story. So I have been on the losing end of being a landlord. I was probably a little bit too nice is what it came down to. So for that reason, I'm not a landlord. So that's why, it's not all rainbows and unicorns being a landlord. So keep that in mind. But that's the way that I've discovered to get around and use these programs. Any programs from Macomb County? Absolutely. Macomb County had virtually all the programs, I want to say, work in Macomb County, with the exception of the Wayne County specific National Faith program. I would love more information about Highland Park. I was actually out. Unfortunately, I don't get to show houses all that much. But I was actually out in Highland Park last night, and I'll tell you what, just it's refreshing to see how things have changed for how positive it is. So every now and then, I just get sick and tired of being the phone jockey I am, and I just hang up my headphones and go out and show some houses. So I always like to meet people. So yes, so there's plenty of money for Highland Park right now. So please reach out to me. Happy to connect you with those as well. So, and I think Highland Park is one of the underserved communities that maybe not now, but in the next 10 years, I see that queue line going from Detroit all the way to Pontiac. And if you're buying within a couple of blocks of Woodward, I think you could do quite well. I tried MSHDA, but have a high DTI because I have 2 cars in my name and student loans. Okay, Jade, please schedule a call with me. Too many people get tripped up with student loans. Okay. And I doubt maybe those cars are in your name, but is someone else making one of those payments? If we can prove that, that's one way. So, but student loans are what trip people up. There are a couple of programs out there where we can get you qualified on an income-based repayment plan. Okay, so what is an income-based repayment plan? If your student loan payments are 0, they won't take it. So if they see 0 on your credit report, they're going to go, okay, we're going to qualify her for 0.5% of the balance or 1% of the balance. So if you owe $50,000, that's $250 in student loans. That's a big ding to your debt to income ratios. Where if we get an income-based repayment plan, we could use $10 a month. That's all we need. So a big way to swing that in the other direction. So please give me a call, and I'll be happy to go over your situation and tell you exactly what I would do. And who knows, maybe MSHDA isn't the best way to go, because you're absolutely right. MSHDA is tough. It's either a pass fail with them. There are a couple of programs that are more lenient than MSHDA. And let me go in here. Here is a link to my calendar. Thanks, Jade. I'm glad you already did that. Okay. Okay. No rush, but okay, great. Community Choice Credit Union is part of your Community Choice isn't. I've actually heard that they have been a little bit stronger. I'm a big fan of credit unions, but you have to look at credit unions are member-owned and member-driven organizations. They don't have the staff to implement, monitor, and track a lot of these down payment assistance programs and grants. So as a result, they don't offer as many as you would think. Now, a lot of credit unions might do the state program, and that might be about it. Okay, maybe they might do National Faith, but they don't have that full breadth of products like some of the mortgage brokers I work with, or some of the larger banks like Flagstar. Flagstar offers a ton of first-time homebuyer programs, and Gold Star Mortgage, I've just recently taken a deeper dive with their products. They really have a full breadth of products. National Faith really is just a great way to buy a house right now. So please, Melody, schedule a call with me. Happy to go over it. And what we can do is pull up the Community Choice website and compare their programs with some of the ones that I've been chatting about tonight. Also heard that Comerica Bank has some housing assistance. Do you have any idea? There are some banks that some of the banks are painfully slow. Okay, and I'll leave it at that. So, and it's usually the larger ones. So, like I said, with Bank of America, those words hold true with Comerica and Chase and things like that. Yeah, they have tons of programs, but by the time you get through the process with them, you're not going to like anyone, in my opinion. So until Comerica steps up the game, or Chase, I can't speak too highly about their processes. So, and it could be because maybe they're under a microscope from federal compliance issues. I don't know, but I can tell you that, like I said, you're not going to like anybody by the time you're done. Does the USDA rural count for Lake County? Okay, this is Bo. So Bo, I'm going to pull it up right now. Here is a link. USDA. Okay, it's not the county, it's the actual house. Okay, so if I let's put in an address here. Let's do 4,011 mile, Novi, Michigan. I don't know. That's just where I'm not far from that. So let's see what pops up. So you can see it's going to give you a map showing what's in and what's out. Okay. So you have to go out to this map and enter it, and it'll tell you whether it's in or out. Okay. And that's the USDA eligibility map. Okay. So chances are, if you are outside, the rule of thumb is the population densities for 35,000 or greater will not qualify. So if you're outside in a rural town, you're usually good. Okay. Lena, you are welcome. Thank you for attending. How do you get information about Highland Park? Schedule a call with me. I'll be happy to go over it with you. Okay. I actually have to do a search and spend a few minutes Googling it, and I'll be happy to get those things off to you. But all the programs that I went over this evening will work for Highland Park. I just think that Highland Park is such an underserved community. There might be a little bit more out there than I just have to dig for a little bit. And I'm happy to do it while you're on the phone. Got it. Okay, Jade. So thank you for that answer about making the payments. I'd still love you to schedule a call, because I really do think the student loans, Some people are just factoring in way more than they need to. And if I get you connected with one of the senior loan officers that I work with, they're really good at workarounds and massaging the system, for lack of better words. Okay, Jade, thank you for scheduling a call. Look forward to it. Student loans are going to be my major issue. Okay, student loans don't have to be a major issue. Okay. I actually routinely get people financed with hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans. So, for example, I had a lady 30 days ago, $150,000 in student loans. They're in deferment. Okay. She has to pull them out of deferment and do an income based repayment plan. Okay. I take that back. She did pull them out, but when she pulled them out, the system, because of her income, automatically says no payments are due. So it shows up zero payments. That's not acceptable with some of the lenders. You actually have to call your servicer and say, I need a payment. I want a payment. Give me $10. If it's $10, that's what we can factor in. So for this lady, we factored in a $10 payment on $150,000 of student loans. And for her, it worked out well because after she gets the house, she can go back to zero. She can change her payment terms. And the reason for her, she worked for a nonprofit that she's going to have her student loans forgiven in a couple more years. So it really didn't make any sense for her to make payments on them. So I just need to know your scenario and we can kind of coach you around it. Okay. You are welcome, Melody. Honorine, thank you. Shanita, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Question, how do you schedule a phone call? I live in a Highland Park right now. Well, you schedule the phone call by clicking this link. It's a live link I'm going to put right in the chat box. Do you see? I've been putting it up periodically. Whoops. Everyone. There we go. That link says http semicolon or colon // no down payment required.org /book. When you click that, it's going to take you right to my calendar. And after we disconnect on our webinar this evening, you're going to get a reminder. You can click on the link and schedule a call with me. Okay. And then I can go over your situation. All right, Willie, you are welcome. Thank you very much for scheduling a call. Brianna, great. Can't wait to talk to you as well. All right. Well, thank you all very much for the questions. Any other questions out there? We still have 30 plus people holding on here. So I certainly appreciate all your time. And actually, I'm seeing some familiar faces there. Deontay, I appreciate it. I should have asked you to chime in. I assume you had a pretty good experience since you're hanging on there. Good. Deontay bought a house on the east side of town. I believe he tapped into the Flagstar 3% gift program that was piggybacked with the $5,000 grant. So I think he tapped into like 9,000. So with a few $1,000s, he was able to get in. So good experience that way. Actually, his was a lengthy process. I'll admit that. So hey, we've all got stories, myself included. So there was something that just popped up out of the blue that no one could have foreseen, but Deontay's patience and persistence prevailed. So instead of, it might have taken us 60 plus days to get his done, but we got it done. That's the important thing. So great. Well, I'm out of questions this evening, so I can't thank you all enough for attending. Appreciate your time and your questions. Never hesitate to reach out to me. Always happy to pay it forward. And if you know of anybody, you are welcome. If you know of anybody that's looking, please do me a favor. Pass my name and number along. Send them to my webinars. I really want to try and get the word out to as many people as possible. A lot of people hear about these programs and, but they just don't know how to access them. And no dig against the banks, but I just don't think that they really do a good enough job leading with these programs, or maybe they're handcuffed and they can't. Maybe I can just speak more freely. And I may not tell you what you want to hear, but I'm going to tell you the truth. So that's what I always say. So, and like I said, it may take you 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years, but eventually, if your goal is to own a house, we'll get you there. Good. Thanks again, Melody. Thank you all very much for attending. Have a good evening and hope our paths cross again real soon. Have a good night. Goodbye.